All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Zusel Aguilar, and I'm an admission counselor at Gonzaga University. Today, I'm going to be moderating our housing webinar, and I will give you an overview of Zoom. I'm sure by now you're all very familiar with it, but webinar functions are a little bit different, so I want to go over those. During the presentation, we'll go over many questions that many of you have asked of us and at the housing office. So we will be addressing those questions throughout the presentation, and we will have a Q&A time at the end of our presentation that will be more direct. If you could please hold your questions until that point, that will be the most helpful so we can keep track of them a little bit easier. Where you will ask your questions will be in the Q&A section. That's where you'll ask them. The chat is where we'll send links or anything like that, but the Q&A is how we will be moderating the webinar. But I'm gonna go ahead and have our my housing colleagues introduce themselves to you, and then we'll start the presentation. Jared, if you wanna go first, and then Aileen.
Hey, Future Zags, this is Jared Payton. I'm an assistant director here at Gonzaga University, Housing Residence Life, and I'm glad to be here with you today.
Hi, my name is Eileen. I'm currently a graduate residence director here. I actually did undergrad here, so I was an RA for 2 years and then assistant residence director, and now I'm finishing out my master's degree supervising a couple of our residence halls. Katie?
Katie, then Christina.
Hi, Zags. My name is Katie Steele. I'm in my second year as a residence director, and although I currently work primarily with second year students, I'm happy to have you join campus in the fall.
Hey y'all, my name is Christina. I'm also a residence director here with the housing office. I currently oversee predominantly upperclassmen students, but I also do have first year students, which includes the Engineering and Computer Science LLC.
All right, then it's Kathy, John, and last but not least, Lisa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Santangelo. I am a proud Gonzaga alum, and I work in the housing office as an office assistant.
Hi all, my name is John Wheeler. I am the Director of Residence Life here in the Department of Housing and Residence Life. And I'm glad that so many of you are here today and interested in what we have to say.
Hi all, so I am Lisa Owens. I'm the assignments coordinator, and we are all super excited to present to you, hopefully get your questions answered today.
Great, thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. Like I mentioned, we'll start the presentation after, and we will go through many of the questions that you all have asked us. And after, we will have a Q&A section, which is when you can plug in your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen.
Excellent. Again, my name is John Wheeler, the Director of Residence Life here. We're so excited that so many of you have joined us today. We know that questions around what your living experience is going to be like are very important questions, and folks, I know that folks have a broad range of interests in what we're going to talk about today, but we've identified some information that we want to share with you at the beginning of our time together. If we don't answer your questions as Zusel talked about, we ask that you add those questions so that we can get to everyone's interest and make sure that we're responding as well as we can. So at this time, we're going to go over our communities. Our residence directors are going to talk about some of the aspects of our communities. Then we'll move into the housing application and room selection process, and our housing operations folks will talk about that. Jared will then talk about our living learning communities and talk about specifics there. And then, like I said, we will open that up for y'all to ask us whatever questions we might not have gotten to over the course of our presentation. So Without further ado, I think I'll turn it over to the residence directors to talk about our communities.
Hi there. So a lot of our communities that we have to offer, particularly for first year students, but also know we do have some transfer students probably on this webinar. It really includes traditional quarter style hall and suite style halls. So in a traditional style hall, it'll just be you and another roommate, and just two of you in that one room, and you'll have neighbors to the left, to the right of you, across from you. You'll have the opportunity to keep your doors open and hang out and build community that way. Or you might get placed in our suite style areas, such as like Dillon, Galler, or Tui, or Dooley, or those other residence halls, where you may live with upwards of about 5 other students, or 5 total, in a suite, where you'll share a bathroom and be able to build community that way while still engaging in the residence hall in other aspects of the RA.
In terms of what each space comes with, so in our traditional style rooms and in the bedrooms in our suites, each student is provided with a bed, and it's an extra long twin, usually for our first year students, dressers or some kind of armoire to keep clothes in, and then a desk and a desk chair. And then for suite style spaces where there's common space, there are usually tables and chairs and couches or love seats provided. And then in terms of amenities, each of our residence halls look different, but in general, there are common spaces with rec equipment such as pool tables, air hockey tables, ping pong tables. There's community gathering spaces where students hang out, or we hold programs as well. And so since some of our spaces, or all of our spaces, look different, each of our spaces on our Housing and Res Life website, we have outlined kind of what each space has to offer as well. So you can take a look at that and check that out to see what the different communities specifically offer.
Yeah, so as mentioned, you will be living with other people. You're going to be sharing a room with somebody else and sharing a bathroom with others as well. You're going to have lots of opportunities to form connections and friendships with the people that you live with. You will have an RA on your assigned to your floor or your hall. And this RA is also going to put on various programs throughout the year. So this could range from social activities such as like a pool tournament, or it could be something more educational where they have somebody from the career and professional development come in to help review resumes, or perhaps something service oriented where you go and volunteer at a local charity. But the RAs are going to tend to design their programs to fit the needs and wants of each community's, of each residence hall's community.
All right, so I am going to talk a little bit about what the housing timeline looks like. This is our plan right now. If this changes because of the COVID-19 situation, we will let you all know. But as of now, these are the dates and the timeline that we have in place. So congrats, you've been accepted to GU. You guys are all welcome to fill out the housing application. It was available to you the minute you received your accept letter, which is great. We use that date that you signed the terms and conditions on the application to determine what order you make your housing selection next month. So if you haven't filled out your housing application and you're kind of trying to wait till June 1st to decide if you want to attend Gonzaga, we recommend you still fill out that application just in case, so that you get a little bit of an earlier time slot. On May 6th, we opened up roommate matching. So if you are interested in maybe trying to select your roommate now, you are welcome to do that. That's also on the housing application piece. For those of you interested in an LLC, the application is due the 1st. All of these things so that you're aware, we'll go into a little bit deeper. I'm just giving you the rough timeline now. In about the second week of June, we'll send out a time slot telling you, hey, log in to Zeg Living, because on this date and at this time, you'll be able to make your room selection. That will take place the 3rd week of June, and everything will be done by June 19th. So by the end of the day on June 19th, you will know what building, what room you're living in, and who your roommate will be. Pretty exciting stuff.
Hello again. I am going to tell you a little bit about the housing application, some specifics about what you'll find if you haven't filled out your application yet, or just to remind you of some of the features that are available on the application if you have already filled one out. When you log into Zeg Living, you'll find that you have an option to select from several different housing terms. So as incoming first-year students, you should be filling out an academic year 2020-2021 housing application. We do have other options available, as sometimes we have students that study abroad and only need a semester of housing. So you'll want to make sure that you're filling out the housing application for a full year. If you accidentally filled out the wrong term, that is no problem. Just email the housing office and let us know, and we can easily update that for you, and it will not change the date that you submitted your application. So you'll want to check on those housing terms. Another feature in the housing application is the ability for you to fill out your housing profile questions. There's a variety of questions that ask a lot about your interests. It asks about some of your routines. Are you a night person? Are you a morning person? We highly recommend that students fill out these profile surveys. Sometimes the way that your family members might answer those questions will vary from the way that you might answer those questions. So it's important that students are answering those profile questions themselves. You'll also find pages related to LLCs, which are optional. You can read more about those. There's a link from the application to our website where we describe the LLCs and what they entail. You can certainly apply for one of those, or you can skip that piece. And you can always return and apply at a later date. If you submit your housing application and then you change your mind, you can go back to your housing application and still apply, as long as it's by the June 1 deadline. Anytime you go back in and update something on your application, if it's a profile question or you do decide you want to apply to an LLC or change anything else, the original submission date when you submitted your application will stay the same. So no worries about going back in to update things. We'll still register that initial date when you submitted your application and sign the terms and conditions. You'll be able to choose a meal plan. And then we go over pages that have the terms and conditions of living on campus, which are in alignment with the mission of Gonzaga. And then we do have the roommate groups page that's open that Lisa mentioned. It's open now. It's also optional. You do not have to pair with a roommate now. A lot of students come to Gonzaga and go through room selection in June without having paired with a roommate. So you certainly don't have to pair with someone in advance. If you choose to, there's 3 different ways that you can pair with a roommate. You can have the system suggest roommates for you. So they'll look at those profile questions that you answered and show you students who have a high percentage match to the way that you answered those questions. You can search for someone by details if you know their name or if you know their web screen name. You can search for someone that way, or you can search for someone based on specific profiles related to the way you answered some of those profile questions. One thing you will not find on the housing application, which can sometimes be confusing, there is no way for you to rank your preference of residence halls or to actually choose a building. So you won't actually see anything related to choosing a building until June when we open up room selection. And now Lisa's going to tell you a little bit more about the housing selection process.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so in June, you will all have the opportunity to select where you live. You get to decide. We won't tell you where you live, which is kind of a neat feature. We will send out an email to you, like I mentioned earlier, letting you know when you can log in. It will also have a video that will walk you through the steps so that you will be very familiar with it. It's going to be on Zag Living, the same page that you went to fill out your housing application. That's going to be a little bit of your housing hub the whole time you're at Gonzaga. Anything that you would want to request from housing, you'll find there. If you want to get to campus early or stay late, it's all going to be on Zag Living. So get used to hearing me say that. So when your selection time comes, you will log in. If you match with a roommate, whoever gets that earliest time can go in and select on behalf of both of you, which is great. You'll log in, select your term. If you know what building you want to live in, you can pick that building specifically and look and see what's available. If you're not really sure yet, you can look at all of the vacancies on campus and kind of pick from there. We'll show you little pictures of what the rooms look like. You can look and see who's in there. If somebody's already selected and you hadn't picked a roommate yet, you can view their profile. You can send them a message, kind of figure out if it's a good fit. If you think that's great, you assign yourself to a bed and hit submit and you're done. It's really, really simple. We are here and we're available to help during the selection the whole time as well. So if you run into questions, please do not hesitate to call us. This will be the same for everybody. So if you've been accepted to an LLC, if you're a transfer student, or you're a new student that's just wanting to do one of our traditional halls, you will all make a housing selection that third week of June.
Hey folks, excited to be here with you. Sorry, I was clicking on the wrong screen, controlling the PowerPoint, and as well as trying to control my Zoom here. I work closely with advising the living learning communities here on campus. So I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the LLC experience and application process for the living learning communities. What you'll want to engage in regards to understand in regards to the living learning admissions process is that it is rolling admission. Review is currently happening in regards to when you sign your commitment to the housing office. It is rolling admission until June 1st. We do have our popular LLCs that fill quite quickly. The top two are Learns to Lead and Cura Personalis. But that doesn't mean that you won't have an opportunity to engage with some of our other strong LLCs. Regardless of what LLC you engage in, you'll have a transformative experience. And we have statistical data to show that the students who engage in an LLC have statistically significant difference in regard to their satisfaction and engagement as compared to some of our other residence halls. So that's a highlight for me as an individual that works closely with the living learning communities, but that in no way discredits the excellent environments that you'll get in our other communities should you choose not to be in an LLC. Once you are accepted into a living learning community based off of first choice, second choice, or third choice, you will be informed via email of your acceptance into that LLC. And then you'll have access to a roommate matching for that same LLC. So if you have a preferred roommate who's desirous of the LLC that you applied to and got accepted into, that individual, I highly recommend applying to and seeking acceptance into the same LLC so that you can see each other and be a part of that LLC community together. If you have a roommate that is not in the LLC and you're strongly desirous of having that roommate, then you'll have to determine if you want to be in an LLC or seek to be a roommate with that individual in one of our other excellent campus environments. If you're not accepted into a living learning community, you will execute the process of roommate matching and roommate selection with the same process that Lisa just outlined previously. You'll do a roommate matching and then roommate selection come into June. Roommate matching and roommate selection, if you're in an LLC, will be for that specific LLC environment. Honors LLC. So the Honors LLC is a separate admissions engagement. Honors students are evaluated from the Honors program. It is held in Cremont Hall. It has specialized resources available to those honors specific students. So if you're in the Honors program, you have to choose to opt out of being in the Honors LLC. We're strongly desirous of the honors students to exist well with each other in community, and we have built an intentional community with faculty and access, honor students living community, study spaces, intentional classroom spaces, and programmatic efforts and budgetary resources for Cremont. So we highly recommend that you engage in that community, and you'll have access to students who are second year students, third year students, and above who are in the honors program who will come and engage with you in Cremont Hall. So that program is, if you're accepted, you have to opt out if you choose to go to a different living environment or a different LLC. In your application, you have to opt out for the Cremont or the honors specific LLC. So that brings us into some general items of access points that you'll want to evaluate. In regards to housing amenities, well, we have our website that will highlight all of our different options here. And then housing selection, this website link will bring you back thoroughly through what Lisa and Kathy discussed here in our webinar. And then for those of you who are interested in housing policy in regard to quiet hours or access to the hall, safety of the hall, and different items that are allowed or not allowed, our housing policy page will be a strong highlight for you. And of course, we're gonna have an opportunity to do some Q&A here with you shortly. And then for me personally, I'll send out a personal invite for you to engage in our LLC information and do a strong reflection and evaluate as to which LLC you want to be a part of. So I'll say which LLC you want to be a part of. I'm excited to review your application material and get you into an LLC. And if you're not into a LLC, I am excited for you to engage with my peers and my staff and the excellent student staff that we have available for you.
Hi all. Okay, so that is the end of our formal presentation, but again, we're here to answer your questions. And so I'm sure Zucel will start providing those questions to us, and the housing staff is happy to answer to the best of our ability. So if we can have the housing staff pop back in so that we can all share in the Q&A session, that'd be great.
Wonderful. Christina, I saw that you said that you wanted to answer a question live. Do you want to read out that question and then give your response?
Nope, I hit the wrong button, but I did type the answer to that.
Okay, great. I will get started with some other questions. The email regarding acceptance into an LLC, is that going to ZagMail, or is that going to their other email account with when they submitted their application?
I'll go ahead and answer that one, Jared, sorry. So it's going to go to the email that they applied to the university with. A lot of our students that have applied to housing haven't necessarily confirmed with Gonzaga yet, so they don't have a ZagMail. We will not roll all of our students to ZagMail until later in the summer, and we'll send you an update when that becomes the main form of communication. So for right now, it will be the email you applied to the university with.
Wonderful. Jared, do you want to answer those two questions?
So the two questions that came up, I'm actually going to toss it to my housing peers. The two questions were, where do you select your roommate, and when do we get profile matches?
I'll go ahead and take that one again. You guys are going to get sick of me. I apologize in advance. And if I speak too quickly, one of my colleagues, will you raise your hand and tell me to slow down, because I know that I am guilty of that very, very often. So you can actually log back into your housing application right now, and you can look at roommate matches. You can search the 3 ways that Kathy mentioned, which were by profile. So if you get up at 6 in the morning and you want to find somebody else that also gets up at 6 in the morning, you can search by that. You can let our system suggest for you what would be a good match. We take all of those profile questions and we'll be able to say, hey, you have a 98% match with this person. We think you'd be really good to live together. Or if it turns out you've met somebody through that class of 2024 Instagram account or Zeme or something like that, and you know their name, you can search for them that way as well. For those that have been accepted into an LLC already, you will only be able to see other folks that have been accepted to that LLC. So you'll see a note actually on that roommate page that says if you've applied to an LLC, please wait until you hear your decision, because we would like for you to hold off. That way you match appropriately. We won't, once you've been accepted, we code you appropriately so that you only see folks in the right LLC. And we don't want you to get your heart set on somebody and then later find out that they didn't apply to that same LLC. That answer those questions, hopefully.
Yeah. So I saw a question within our chats. So it sounds like you can apply for housing even if you have not confirmed your attendance at Gonzaga. Yes, definitely. Please feel free to do that. it will help with your registration time that you receive. So that would definitely be like my next to-do list. And then when you decide to come to the university, then you already have that taken care of. So that's what I would recommend doing for that. But let's see. So how do we access roommate matching? That's going to be on the application, if I'm correct. Yes. Let's see. Is it possible for there to be a ZME chat for LLCs that could be helpful for finding roommates? Definitely possible, and we'll take a look at doing that. That will be our office since we run our ZME app. So we'll definitely take a look at that. That's a good idea. What % of honors students live within the honors LLC?
I'm not exactly sure of the percentage. The desire is for the greatest saturation of honor students as possible. I believe that this year they're shooting for 40 individuals to live in the honors Cremont area. I would love if that existed that way. I think it's an opportunity for students to really enjoy the camaraderie and the honors program-esque oneness that they have in that community, as well as enjoy the opportunity for their peers who choose not to be in Cremont to be invited back and be in constant engagement in the common floor spaces, the academic spaces, study lounge. There's a lot of intentionality around the development of Cremont and what the honor students have access to there that should excite any honor student. In regard to percentage, that is a moving target from year to year.
So along that same route, another student asks, is Cremont exclusively for honor students, or can you request a non-honors roommate for Cremont while still living in the honors LLC?
Cremont is not honors exclusive. We do have a mixed approach to honors. In regards to roommate matching, I would ask Lisa and Kathy on that.
I am going to say, if you are an honor student and you know that you would like to live with somebody that is not an honor student, will you please email the housing inbox? Because typically the way we have our profile set up, we do try to encourage students to match with those that are in the same LLC, but it's absolutely allowed in Cremont to not, you don't have to live with one another. So if you decide to pair up that way, just give us a heads up and we'll make sure to adjust things on our end so that you'll be able to select appropriately.
Great. So this is definitely a question that's on students and families' mind. How will residence life be different this year, keeping in mind of COVID-19?
Good question. So we are in the process of discussing that now. We are partnering with the Spokane Regional Health District Director, as well as our health and counseling folks, talking about all of the processes that we need to think about and alter in order to make sure that our students are safe and healthy. Some of the things, none of these plans are formalized at this point, but some of the plans that we're talking about are looking at how to reduce the population density in some of our buildings, how to appropriately clean common areas and bathrooms, other high-touch areas, and how to quarantine or isolate students who may have contracted or come in contact with those who have contracted the COVID virus. Our regional health district feels very confident in our testing ability. So if we have students who are exhibiting COVID-like symptoms, they will be able to get tested, and the test turnaround, the estimated time for results back to the student come August will be about 2 hours worth in time. And so it will be a very rapid return. And then we also, the regional health district is also very confident in its abilities to do contact tracing. And so we will be having folks talking to our health officials, and we'll find out who they've come in contact over the course of the day, or over the course of the week, or over the course of a couple of weeks. To help us do that, there are some things that we're asking students to do, which would be aware of their social distancing, to be, to potentially wear masks, potentially have their temperature taken. We are looking into all of the ways that we can help students be aware of their impact on others around them. And so part of that might also be making sure that we're keeping track of who we're in contact with over the course of a day or a week or a couple of weeks. And so as we finalize some of those decisions, which hopefully will be soon, we will be sharing that information. And housing is truly only one portion of the student experience that is being discussed. And so they're talking about course delivery and co-curricular experiences and activities, athletics. And I know that folks are really interested in the communal living experience, but we are working to make sure that everyone is as safe as possible. Again, once we have more firm details on that, we'll be releasing that out from the university level, not just a departmental, but a university level. Hopefully that answers some questions, but if there are more specifics, I can hopefully answer those for you.
Great, thank you so much. So the next question that we had is, I already filled out my application, but I would like to change my meal plan. Am I able to change it?
I'll take this one. So students are able to change their meal plans. You can actually change your meal plan through the first Friday of the fall semester. And then once that Friday comes and goes, you are locked into whatever meal plan you chose for the fall semester. You will have another opportunity if you decide that maybe you either went for too small of a plan and you want to upgrade. I think you can actually do that at any point through the semester. But if you wanted to downsize, once it comes around to the spring semester, you'll have a chance to make a change to that meal plan again through the first week of the spring semester.
Wonderful, thank you. That's so you get a sense of your schedules and see what meal plan works best for you, so to give you a little bit of time to change that. Lisa, can you review the schedule for move-in and kind of what that process is like?
I'll actually take that.
Wonderful.
So we are looking at changing our move-in times and move-in days for our first year and transfer students. And so in order to reduce the population density on campus, we are in discussion of having the move-in process happen over the course of 2 days. At this point, move-in is slated for first years to be August 28th. I'm making sure that that's right. So August 28th. And so very likely we will be moving in on August 27th and August 28th, and you will be receiving the time and date in which you're asked to be to arrive on campus and check into your space. Given the desire to keep the amount of folks in the hallways and in the rooms to a minimum, we will be offering students one roommate of a room the opportunity to move in the morning, the second roommate of the room to move in the afternoon. We will also be asking people to adhere to the move-in times that they've been given. And so if there are folks who have a need to shift their move-in time, we will ask that you contact our office and we will work with your schedule needs. But at some point or another, we will need folks to abide by the time that they've been assigned to move in. So once folks arrive to campus on the day and time that they're allowed to move in, they will be given information about where to go to get their ZAG card and get their room key. Then they'll be able to go back out to the residence halls. We will support you as much as we can with social distance expectations in place to be able to move into your room. You'll have at least 2 hours to move into your space, but knowing that if you're there for the afternoon, your roommate's already been in the building and should not be in the room while you're moving in as well. So we've built in ample time for that to happen. So August 27th and 28th right now, and again, COVID related issues may change that schedule, but that's what we have slated for now.
Great, thank you. This is a great question. I have a severe food allergy and I'm wondering, or I'm worried about living with someone who might eat those foods. I plan to do a random roommate assignment, but I want someone who's okay of avoiding those foods. Can you give some advice for the student?
Yeah, I would say from the Res Life side, and then I'll probably toss it back over to housing to see if you can fill in any of that information on your applications ahead of time. But on our side, we really encourage you to have those conversations with your roommate ahead of time. You do typically find out who that roommate is, I believe, around like July, August. No, okay. Well, when you move in on campus, you'll be
earlier. You'll find it out in June. When
Perfect.
you make your room selection, you find out your roommate at that time, or right after if it's an empty room when you select.
Perfect. So around June, you'll be able to know who that person is and have that contact information. And then we highly suggest that you are the person that contacts them and let them know about your allergy. Just due to a variety of laws and reasons, we cannot reveal that information on your behalf. So we really encourage you to have those conversations with your residents. And if there's any issues with that moving forward, you can always contact your RA or the RD of your area.
Great, thank you. We have a question in the Q&A that asks if students can apply for the honors program in their second year. And yes, so the honors program is through our office. And so students, we are creating a process for students to apply in their second year. So that is a possibility for students. When should we expect to get an MSc mailbox number, and what is an MSc?
So you will actually be getting information from the first year office that it's a how to ZEG guide, and it will go over actually how you sign up to get an MSc box, and it will require you to do a little bit of work on your part. It's a website that it'll direct you to request your MSc box number, and that is where you get your mail. Sorry, I skipped right over that. It's very similar to a PO box number. So when you friends and family want to send you packages or you want to order things from Amazon, that's the address you will use.
Great, thank you. If you have been accepted to an LLC, how do you find a potential roommate that's also been admitted to that LLC?
So if you have been accepted and other folks have been accepted, those will be the only people you can see during roommate matching.
Great, thank you. Let me see. Is Alliance being used as a residence hall this year? It seemed like a good match for me, but I did not see it on the list of residence halls on the housing application.
Alliance is one of the residence halls that we're considering for using for COVID purposes. So there's a potential that Alliance would be used as the space that we would house students who have contracted COVID and need to be in isolation for 14 days. There's also a chance that we will use a different building, in which case we will know well before you would need to sign up for your residence hall room, whether or not we are using Alliance or a different space on campus. And so I would say that you'd be able to see whether or not you can use Alliance by the first week of June. We'll know what spaces we're holding off for those purposes. But that's probably why you're not seeing Alliance right now.
Great, thank you. There's a question in the chat that says, when will we have confirmation, 100% confirmation that we'll be open for in-person classes and living on campus? And so we're moving forward with the plan to be on campus. We have a really great structure in place, like housing mentioned, just on the housing side, but with our health center, with our classes that we are working on. And so our plan is to move forward in person. There isn't, with the situation is changing day by day, so there isn't 100% on any decision we make, but the plans that we have in place are strong. We have a strong structure, great faculty that is willing to work with students in a changing situation. Our staff is amazing, and so we can't do anything at 100% confirmation, but our plan is, and all our work is, to have students back on campus in the fall. When that changes, students will be the first ones to know, so we can let them plan. But if you have questions like that come up, please feel free to reach out to us and ask those questions. We're happy to walk you through that and give you all the information that we have at that current moment. So another question is, if you're an athlete for a year-round sport, do you still get to choose your residence hall, or will that be chosen for you?
Our student athletes participate in room selection just as our other incoming first-year students. So you are welcome to pair with a roommate ahead of time, or you can go through the room selection process and choose a space based on where you're interested in living, and also what vacancies might still be available to you during room selection.
Great. Are the twin beds regular or extra long? How do we request loft kits? Does that happen when we get our final room selection, or what that process is like?
You want to do it, Kathy? Go for it.
Sure. I feel like I became a loft kit professional after our first webinar. So our plant services team on campus does provide loft kits to students. There is a loft kit form on the Gonzaga website. I'm not sure if they're taking new students' requests right now, or if you'll need to wait until after the June 1 confirmation deadline. But essentially you fill out a form saying that you would please like to have a loft kit installed in your room. I actually think you need to wait until after room selection because it does ask you where your room is located. So after you participate in room selection and you know where you're living, you can go ahead and fill out that request form, and plant services will come in ahead of move-in and build your loft kit for you. Our beds are actually adjustable to 3 different heights just normally. So students can have some flexibility with raising their bed up to a height where you can still put plastic tubs and storage drawers underneath your bed. Lofting your bed actually raises it quite close to the ceiling of your room. So that's the difference between using the loft kit and then just adjusting your bed yourself. You can have a loft kit removed if you've gotten one and you get to your room and decide you don't really want it anymore. You can also ask for it to be taken away. And at some point, I think those do get to a point where there aren't any more available. But you can potentially, if someone returns one during the year and you didn't get one to start the year, you may have an option to get one at a later time. Plant Services has a diagram on their website as well that shows the differences in the heights of the bed and what a lofted bed looks like.
Great, thank you. So I saw a few questions of this in the Q&A. For students that are coming out of state, how will they know ahead of time when their move-in time will be, either the morning or afternoon, as you mentioned, to make sure that they're booking flights for the appropriate time?
Once we've decided for sure which days and times will be assignable for move-in, we've already begun to identify a chart for which buildings and which rooms and which times will be assigned at that point. Once we know who's in those buildings and in those rooms, then it's an easy process for us to be able to let folks know when they will be able to arrive to campus. And so before folks assign themselves to a room and a space, we will have our move-in process designed and laid out. And so we will begin that process of communicating with students. So it will be mid-June, certainly at about mid-June when we notify students of their move-in time.
Great, thank you. Along the same theme with out-of-state students, but a student asked, are out-of-state students allowed to move in earlier?
I will.
Because I know the answer.
Right. So right now, we aren't completely positive on early arrivals. We do have an early arrival form that will go live if we are allowing students to arrive early. Kind of like John mentioned, we're still waiting on a couple pieces. Check egg living. Once it's for sure a go, we will have that form up and students can request a date and we will process that as quickly as possible, letting them know whether it's been approved or not.
Great, thank you. Jared, can you answer, or I'll throw this to the group, how long does it take to hear back about your acceptance to an LLC? I know we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but if you could go over that. And if that's the same timeline, if a student has just recently applied.
Sure. So the selection committee is reviewing the applicants on a rolling admission basis. So they start back on the earliest application form and then they move forward from there. It's evaluated and accepted on a weekly basis. So you should be students who are accepted if they don't hear earlier in the week. the latest they'll hear a new acceptance is on a weekly basis by Friday, up until the end date of review and evaluation, which is June 1st, which will have an even quicker turnaround to allow our housing operations side to be able to code and get students ready for that room selection.
Great, thank you. I've seen this question a few times from students, but is there a service to rent a mini fridge or microwave, or what you recommend for that?
Currently, we do not have a micro fridge or fridge combo rental system. Our contract with the previous provider has ended, and we have determined to not renew with that contract. Our recommendation is that students use whatever resource available to them to bring their own fridge or microwave. We have the electrical capacity, knowing that we've plugged in a whole bunch with our previous third-party provider. So we invite you to search Walmart and Craigslist and such.
We also see quite a few families when they arrive on campus do extra shopping at our local Target and Walmart and Fred Meyer's. So and those stores have, and at Bed Bath & Beyond, those stores all have micro fridges that would be available for purchase. And we see quite a few folks go out and do that the first day that they're here. And so that's an opportunity as well.
Great, thank you. A couple caveats with that: make sure you check in with your roommate before you do that, because I've definitely seen rooms with too many fridges, and I asked them what happened. It's because none of them asked each other, and so they have two, which is great but unnecessary. And then also a lot of upperclassmen always just sell their stuff as they move into a house, or as underclassmen come in. And so those first few weeks, you'll definitely see and have your friends ask each other hey, do you know anyone that's looking for a microwave? So I had plenty of opportunities to go that way, or buy it from a store if that's what you would like. Let's see. Lots of questions in here. Do most freshmen do random roommates, or do most select them?
I can see Kathy smile, and so I don't know if that means she's going to answer. Most of them do random roommate. I would say maybe on a good year, or not a good year, maybe on a strong year, 20% know their roommate before getting here, but never more than that. Typically, it's you get to campus and it's the first time you're actually meeting one another, and it seems to be pretty successful. We recommend messaging each other, using those tools on Zeg Living, getting to know each other before you really commit to that, so that kind of like the person asked earlier about allergies, you can chat long before room selection and ask, do you enjoy having peanut butter in the room? And if they say yes, and that's what your allergy is, move on and try to find somebody else. And it's totally fine and very, very normal to move in not knowing who your roommate is.
I say it builds character. I've met some of my greatest friends doing random roommate selection, and so either way, you're going to have a great experience within our residence halls. Along the same note, can you deselect a roommate after confirming what is the process, and where maybe they're locked into that choice, or if they even are?
You are not locked into that choice. So if you started the roommate group and you're the group leader, you can choose to no longer have that group be in existence. If you were invited into a group and you've chosen to no longer be part of that roommate group, there's an option in Zeg Living to just say leave the group, and you can move on and search for other roommates, or wait until room selection and assign yourself to a space and meet a new friend.
Great, thank you. That's why we very much encourage the students to fill out their housing applications. And then I always tell students, fill out the application for who you are, not who you aspire to be. I definitely have roommates that aspire to be morning people, and they were not. And I'm a morning person. I don't drink coffee at 6:30 a.m. when I wake up. I'm ready to go. And some roommates did not appreciate that. It's because they wanted to be morning people, but they were not. So when you're filling out that, be conscious of you're going to be matched based off those answers. What advantages are there for being a member of an LLC?
There's a lot of advantages for being a member of an LLC. A lot of them are because of the intentional programmatic outcomes that are entwined with the efforts that the staff provide. There is an increased budgetary resources that help the community engage with each other. There's an opportunity to already start the year off with individuals who have similar and shared interests and passions, so already have a common bond with them. And oftentimes in my survey analysis at the end of the year, the students say what impacted them most was the similar and like-minded interests, and then the community that they build in the LLC. So those were some advantages. You also have distinct access to faculty and staff intentional engagement in the hall. So a lot of intentionality and engagement around individuals who have a common interest to start off their year at Gonzaga.
Great, thank you. A student asked if they are coming in as a junior, most likely a transfer student. Can they purchase a meal plan if they're living off campus? What is that process like?
Yes, you can absolutely have a meal plan. We have, I think if you've checked out the website, we even have one that's kind of the commuter meal plan. So you're not planning on doing all of your meals on campus, but you'd like to while you're there studying. That is absolutely an option. You can do it directly through ZagWeb if you'd like. You don't have to fill out a housing application for that.
Great, thank you. What is the height and width of a standard dresser in CM and Madonna? That's very particular. I think I'm not going to answer this. Go ahead.
It's actually not that uncommon of an inquiry. We get a lot of requests to, if they can park their car under their bed, they want to know what are the dimensions of that. So we need to look into that, and we'll likely post it on our website in regard to dimensions of items.
Great, thank you. Do students need, hi Jordan, do students need to bring their own printer, or do dorms have printers for students?
If you're lucky enough to be part of the Honors LLC, you'll have free printing access. There also are several of our residence halls that have the what is called the Follow Me print printing access that will be available to them, not only in the residence halls, but across campus as well.
So that one you just print, and then where you print it to is Follow Me, which is accessible through all of our printers on campus. You just type your ID number, and then it'll have all the documents that you have printed, and then you can access those documents from there. The pros and cons of that, you can have your own printer. It's more convenient, but it's more costly of just like maintaining your own printing, and especially like how are you and your roommate gonna split printing costs? Are they gonna use it? And so there are pros and cons of bringing your own printer versus using the printing facilities on campus. My recommendation is just to try it for a few weeks with our printers, and if you feel like you having your own would be more of a benefit to you, then do that. What are the usual reasons someone isn't accepted into an LLC?
Because of the hard selection committee determination. The typical reasons why students aren't accepted into an LLC is because of LLC is already filled because of rolling admission, as well as if they did not respond to the questions required on the application, or the responses to the application did not meet the depth and breadth of what we believe our ZAGs can live into, and what we hope that they give us in response to those two questions to apply to an LLC.
A few questions about the dining halls and meal plans. First, a student already submitted their application with their housing or their meal plan preference. Can they change it now, or do they have to wait till the first week of school?
They can go in and change it now. So you can make any changes up until room selection. And then once room selection happens, a lot of those things will lock so that we can share that information with student accounts so that they process everybody's bills appropriately. Then you'll have to do it on ZagWeb, or on ZagWeb. Sorry, you will have that opportunity still.
Wonderful, thank you. Are there any changes in dining halls to comply with COVID-19 guidelines, or if any information you know of that so far?
Yeah, so we are following the Washington State's guidelines regarding COVID social distancing. And so the dining hall is one, the dining process is one that we're looking at right now. And we will certainly make sure that we are feeding folks. Everyone will get food. Everyone will get their breakfast, lunch, and dinner if they want it. The density of number of patrons in our dining hall or those who are waiting in line for any of our eateries on campus may be affected, and so it may be reduced. We're looking at expanded time frames for students, perhaps shift eating. There are a variety of different conversations happening regarding how to accommodate all of the students that we have on campus. But we will, again, be abiding by Washington State rules regarding social distancing, and cleanliness is also going to be paramount on our minds, and so making sure that we're wiping down surfaces and disinfecting, and altering how our food is delivered to students is also something that we're talking about.
Great, thank you. Along the lines of a meal plan, what is the most popular meal plan for incoming freshmen? Is there one in particular?
I don't know about the incoming students, but amongst our resident assistants, those who have experience on campus, having lived here, the white plan is often chosen by those folks. But again, it's personal preference and how much you anticipate you're going to be eating in our dining hall. And then Bulldog Bucks is something also that folks want to consider because Bulldog Bucks can be used in a variety of different venues around campus and even outside of campus property. So there are some restaurants that take that Bulldog Bucks as well. So that's an appropriately vague response, but white meal plan is the one that the resident assistants particularly gravitate to.
I would say most people come in wanting the unlimited plan, and then they determine after a semester, okay, this is what like my eating habits actually are. So no matter what, you're gonna get food. You'll figure it out.
The cost difference isn't a lot between the meal plans. It's really just like what's gonna fit better with your lifestyle. I was a morning person, like I mentioned, so I took class from 8 a.m. all the way to 1 p.m. consecutively. So I would only run in to grab something very quickly. And I was doing that a few times through my classes. And dinner was the actual meal that I had in the dining hall. So because I was swiping in 4 to 5 times, that was the most, or the best plan for my schedule. And so you'll learn that as you go through. But price, the difference of cost is not that much. It's really what fits best with your lifestyle and with your schedule. Well, this is a good question. Is it easy to be vegan at GU or just in general dietary restrictions?
I would say yes. We have a couple stations, and Eileen, you might want to jump in. You actually probably eat there more often than I do. But yes, we have a dietitian and a chef that will walk you through all the options as a vegan, kind of tell you what they have. You can look up on the Zag Dining website, and it will tell you what vegan options that they are serving every day. So there are plenty of options. I myself am plant-based, so it's very easy to go grab snacks and things on the go, and I have not run into any complications.
Yeah, there's an entire stations agriculture that is always going to be dedicated to vegan food. And in my opinion, I actually like the things that agriculture is offering better than what's offered at the rest of the COG, but that's just my personal taste. But there are always going to be options for you.
Great, thank you. Is pre-orientation and orientation still happening? Is that still our plan?
We're looking at that right now. That is the plan. There are conversations happening, and it might look a little bit differently, but everything that we've been, all the conversations have been around how to make them happen, and the applications for pre-orientation sessions will be coming out shortly. There will be information in How to Zag about that as well. So I'm sure that there are other folks who might know exactly which websites to go look at, but the plan is to move forward with them.
Great, thank you. A student asked, how do bringing your cars work to campus your first year? Is that allowed? What are costs that come with it? I'm happy to take this or to give it to another member if you, I can take it. Okay, great. So you are allowed to have your car the first year. The university will encourage you to spend your first year without it and just really figure out Spokane in general and just the area. It's also good to keep in mind that you're going to have your car maintenanced and serviced, and you're really going to want to know the area a little bit more before you do that, and just to get an understanding of Gonzaga and the Spokane area, as well as if you're not from the climate, you should definitely experience a Spokane winter. I'm from the Bay Area and it doesn't dip below 70 degrees and people are in full sweaters. It is below 70 degrees and I am in a sweater. So it's definitely something that you'll want to get accustomed to, and just figuring out Gonzaga in general. Everything is so walkable and close to campus, and we provide a lot of transportation for different events, GU Outdoors, and there's a shuttle that takes you into downtown every weekend. So there's lots of opportunities to get around. And so I didn't have my car till my second semester of my senior year. And so that's because I was applying to jobs in the area. So I really didn't need it. There was people that brought their cars later that we would go get groceries with. So we just recommend that you spend a year without it and then get a better sense of, do I really need this? And also, can I maintain costs? And ask those questions first.
And then there is a parking permit that you need to park in various lots on campus, and that runs about $100 for the entire year, which is a lot cheaper than most universities.
Yes.
There was a question on that regarding assigned parking. There's no assigned parking anywhere on campus, even for us. We still gotta fight for parking.
There is zones, and so if you're living on campus as a student, you have a specific zone for parking. If you are a commuter student to campus, you have a specific zone. There's plenty of parking on campus. I get annoyed because I don't get to park within like 50 feet of like the entrance of the university, but there's so much parking, especially like we have a parking garage. If you go on the upper levels, it's always very empty. So parking isn't an issue, and cost is definitely cheaper than at other institutions. It's primarily with our like location, and then we have plenty of spots, but let's see. Much of the communication seems to be directed at ZagMail. How long should I wait for instructions on accessing ZagMail? So it's dependent on when you pay your confirmation deposit. It's not when you say, yes, I will be coming. It's I've submitted my confirmation deposit. We actually mail you instructions on how to access ZagMail. So we tell students to wait about 10 days from when you submit that deposit for when you get that mailing, because there's going to be a mailing specific to you on how to access that. Until you activate your ZagMail, all the communication is going to go towards your email that you put on your application. Once you access your ZagMail, that becomes your primary email to the university. And so it's not like you're getting emails there and you're missing them. You'll get a notification of that, like I said, about 10 days after you submit your deposit, so we can process that and then mail you those documents. That's a good question. So on dietary restrictions, I know we mentioned it earlier, but someone had a question on, my son is intolerant to all artificial dyes, which makes food options difficult. Is there a list of ingredients at the dining halls that are provided for the different meals?
Usually each station is gonna have a sign saying, okay, this one contains like almonds or peanuts or something. But they don't usually provide a list of like every single ingredient that goes into it. But I don't know if you can just talk to the chef and they'll provide that, but it's usually not like generally available.
I would definitely recommend, in a situation like this, reaching out to the dietitian and the chef. I've worked with them a bit in the past, and they're both very open and willing to meet with students one-on-one and discuss any specific details that would help them be more comfortable dining on campus, as well as I've seen them even procure products for students that they might not already have available. So if there are foods that your student isn't finding or that you aren't finding in the dining halls or on campus anywhere, I would say absolutely reach out to our colleagues in Zag Dining, because they will really go above and beyond to help you find choices that you're comfortable eating.
Great, thank you. There's another question for international students. How will move-in be affected? I know there's been a lot of news about like borders closing and what that means, and rightfully so, it creates panic for international students. So Kenji, could you help address that question or introduce yourself and address that question for our international students that are coming to campus and also looking at housing and residence life?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry to kind of just pop in. My name's Kenji Lane. I'm one of the international admission counselors. So I see a couple of my Latin American students in the group. So hello. A couple of things. I know there was a question, Santiago, you asked about mailing things to campus and how those can be held and things like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, my housing partners, I believe to an extent, the mailroom would hold things for you. In the past, the ISSS, our International Student Scholar Services, have opened up their office to hold some things. It depends on how much you're sending. But you can get a lot of things in Spokane for much cheaper, especially when you start looking at that shipping cost. I would, myself and Teresa is my other colleague who covers the other half of the world, we would be more than happy to sit down with you and your parents and talk through what are you going to buy online and ship here, and what can we just get when you're in Spokane. We have all the retail here that you have in your home or that you can find online. And we mentioned like Fred Meyer's was a night just for Gonzaga students where you and your family can go shopping, where they actually close the doors to all the other patrons, right? And so there's ways where we can make sure that you have what you need, especially for our international students with our ISSS department. We actually will do shopping trips with you. We know, like I mentioned, my Latin American students, right? You're coming from warmer climates, even warmer than what Zusel came from. And so we will make sure that you buy a winter coat while you're here, right? Do not buy that in Bogota. Don't buy that in Panama City. Buy that in Spokane. You'll save a lot of money on that. And also those are big things to pack, right? So we're gonna save you time on spacing and things like that. So I am more than happy to have that conversation with you. I quite literally travel professionally, so I can give you advice on packing also. Feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague Teresa. I'll put our contact us in the chat. So if you don't already have my contact, you can reach out to me, but we'll be able to find a creative solution for you with that.
Some students do choose to mail some items to campus prior to arriving on campus. And the mailroom has in the past, want to make sure that we preface that, but in the past has opened up the opportunity for students to mail stuff to their box. That usually opens up August 1st. Again, the mailroom's website would have more information regarding when they would be accepting packages for students who are coming in for their first year.
Great, thank you. Let's see. I know Kenji mentioned we have international students from Latin America, and for many of you, English is your second language, and so there are various of us in the Office of Admission, I'm not sure about housing, but speak Spanish. Spanish is actually my first language, and so we could definitely go over this. If this is going a little bit too quickly for you, we can set a meeting and we can translate. We'd be happy to do that. Another question is there a shuttle provided from the airport regularly, ever? How does that work? You want to take that? So in general, we advise students to, we don't have a shuttle that goes to campus every day. That's not something that we provide. Taxis are very much available, like they're there. Uber and Lyft as well is typically what I take. To give you context, because I know airports in a lot of cities are much further away than they are in Spokane. It's about a 15-20 minute ride from the airport to campus. And typically it's like on Lyft and Uber, I've spent maybe like $20, a little bit less, like that's with tip normally, getting to campus. And so it is pretty cost effective to do those rideshare apps or do a taxi, depends on what you prefer, but they're readily accessible to rides to campus.
Additionally, all students can use their ZAG card to ride public transit for free. And then there's a bus, I've never taken it, but there's a bus that eventually will get you to the airport. I just don't know which route. So.
Yes, your ID card does provide you a free bus pass to campus, and then campus does have bus stops that are on the edges of it. And so if you wanted to ride the bus from campus, if you're living off campus or just want to go to, one of our parks on here, there are bus passes that go throughout the city, specifically, mainly north and south is where they typically go. But let's see, what other questions do we have?
There's also a lot of Facebook groups surrounding rides to the airports as well, where students will just link up like, I'm leaving at this time, can I get rides? Or just reaching out through the residence hall. So a lot of people tend to try to carpool together to get rides to the airport as well. So if you cannot afford those $20, or sometimes the buses stop running after a certain hour. So if you have like a 6 a.m. flight, you might not be able to catch a bus, but you can always work something out with your friends or other residents on campus.
Great, yeah. My roommates and I typically traded off who was picking up the other at the airport. And so all of that is, the ZAG community is very much close-knit. And so if you ask that, that's definitely something that many others will offer. It's like, yeah, of course. And that's something that is not easy or is not difficult to take care of. It's pretty easy. Let's see, after we move in, what kinds of activities will happen on our first day? And I'm assuming, so if it's orientation, there's a pack full schedule that they have throughout. And orientation isn't, well, it isn't a day, it's a weekend, but technically orientation is orientating you to campus life. So it's a longer process, it's how we view it. But there's a lot of different activities when you move on to campus orientation weekend. Your first day of classes will depend on just your schedule. But you're able to see what the tentative schedule is online for the first year orientation, so that is available. This is a good question. I'm confused about DeSmet. It seems almost like a fraternity. So could you explain what a chapter is and what their expectations are that might be different for other residence halls?
Yes, it's a charter community, not a chapter house. So it is all male. And so that is a community that has a long tradition. It is the oldest residence hall on campus. There are many trustees who have fond memories of living in DeSmet, and it's got a lot of tradition because of that. And so, and a lot of pride in living in DeSmet. It's in the center of campus, close to everything. And so what we have seen over the years is that people have pride in living in that community and want to make sure that everyone in that community is living up to the standards of a DeSmet man. Yeah. And so the charter community really, it was created by students who lived in the building. They identified the standards, communal living standards that they wanted to exemplify and hold each other to. And that has progressed from year to year, and students who engage with the charter community agree to abide by those standards. There is some level of self-governance. So for example, there is a DeSmet accountability panel. So if someone should violate an expectation of the communal living agreement, then they will come in front of their peers to have a conversation about how to better live in community with the other men of DeSmet. There are also DeSmet opportunities to get involved with leadership opportunities on campus, to be involved in DeSmet interest programs. So again, somewhat similar to a learning community where similar interests, people with similar interests will come together and participate in activities. And then there are floor captains per floor, and then a DeSmet hall council, which is slightly different than the block councils that we have on campus. And so there's a higher level of opportunity for engagement and a higher level of expectation regarding how those men will exist with each other in community.
Great, thank you. This is a good question. Let's see. Oh, someone might have already answered this. Is there a certain dorm that's known to be quieter, more calm than others, especially for students that may be a little bit more introverted, for those looking for that?
Yes, there are quieter halls than others. There are more social halls than others. I would say that some of our smaller communities of 45 to 50 residents would be much quieter in terms of the community that lives there. Cremont tends, with being an honors hall, tends to have some level of academic focus as well. There are some, I'm looking to my RD colleagues, those tend to be our quieter halls. Our more social or engaged halls would be perhaps Catherine Monica, or Coghlan is a very vibrant community as well. That's where our living learning communities are housed. So if you have an interest in specific halls, our housing folks or even our residence directors can answer the question of what does that community feel like to live in typically? And they generally, interestingly, even though they house mostly first years or second years, have very similar cultures from year to year. So we would be able to answer that question for you.
Great, thank you. What non-LLC residence halls will be open for first year students this fall?
So you will find a list of all of the halls on the website. Kind of like John mentioned, depending on what plans we have, we may have to hold off a few for some of those COVID situations. But as of right now, it would be Alliance, Catherine Monica, Madonna, TUI, Gawler, if you'd applied to the engineering LLC, Cremont. I'm drawing a blank now on which ones I've missed.
Some of them have LLCs in them, but you don't have to be in the LLC. For example, Marion would be house our outdoor pursuits living learning community, but you don't have to be in that living learning community to be in that building. And Cremont would be another example. So it's not all honor students, so you wouldn't have to be in the honors program to live there. And we are cognizant or are very aware of the fact that there are folks who are part of a special program and folks who are not, and the RAs are very good at building community across those groups of students.
Great, thank you. Let's see. How do you access the roommate selection when already accepted into an LLC? Currently looking on Zag Living, but not finding anything on roommates.
So it's going to be on your application. So you'll go back, select that 2021 term, click next through that roommates, and or through the steps, and you'll get to a page that says roommate groups. You'll then be able to say suggest roommates or search. It just depends. It may be limited right now because we are still making LLC decisions. So depending on the LLC, potentially only 12 folks have been accepted right now. So don't be alarmed yet. There will be more as more decisions have been made, but they're definitely out there.
Great. A question from a student athlete. They're drawn to Outdoor Living, Outdoor Pursuits LLC. Will that be difficult to balance their sport and outdoor pursuits? Do you also recommend that athletes request other athletes as roommates?
We've had athletes engage in our living learning communities successfully in the past. A lot of them actually select to apply to an LLC due to the proximity of our athletic facilities on campus, and they have been successful. The LLC requirements are are pretty easy access in regard to engaging in a program a month, and it's intentional for them to engage in that community, and actually might give them a break from constant athletic engagement, and opportunity to engage with some peers outside of that realm in the LLC community. So athletes have been successful. In regard to roommate matching and interest, I think that it might be wise to, based off of the schedule of training and eating and all the stuff that's mandated by athletic teams.
Great, thank you. A few questions. These are all around COVID. I'll ask the questions and then I'll throw them. There are a few in here. Is there a possibility of students being in all single rooms due to the COVID crisis?
Do you want to answer one at a time or go as?
You can go. You can do that one.
So no, we are experiencing a lot of applications, and so right now the number of singles would be small. That doesn't mean that they aren't there or that we might not have more of them. We're still waiting to see what our eventual student population will be on campus, and that will determine how many bed spaces we have available and where those bed spaces will be available. And so I would say that we're looking at what our inventory of beds would be, but I would say that most of our spaces will not be singles. Vast majority of them will not be singles.
Great, thank you. Another was they've taken a look at the orientation schedule from last year. Do you know, beside move-in, what will change in respect to events that weekend, such as President's Mass? They're all currently being evaluated. Once we get a better sense of that, and I know that that's really difficult for students and also for us to hear, but with everything changing, we have to work closely with our regional health district to make sure we are making the most informed decision at that current point. And so the moment that we know what's going to go on with the schedule and, you know, more finalized details, you guys, we're going to send that information through email, social media. You're going to see it on many fronts to make sure that students are aware of that. So that is something that we are working on as a university. I would just like to say that there are 0 questions in the Q&A, and we have gone through 131, which is amazing. Any last minute questions? There are about 6 minutes left. So we'll take any last minute ones. With the time constraints, we could probably only do a few. So if there's anything that we haven't covered, can someone in the, one of our panelists send the, actually let me do it, I think I have it open. I'm gonna send the link to the page and where you all signed up for this event. Let's see. Here you'll find contact information for all of our presenters here. If you would like to contact them and ask any further questions, or contact the admissions office, our email is just admissions@gonzaga.edu if you have questions about that.
There was a question about what other than furniture is in the room. And so, yes, all windows will have window coverings and blinds. We have trash cans available in the room. Desk chair, bed. You would need to bring your own mattress cover if you're wanting to bring a mattress cover. All of the bedding would be your responsibility. Any of the, certainly there would be overhead lights for the rooms, but there would not be specific desk lights for the rooms. There would be somewhere, of course, to hang all of your clothing that needs to be hung, and then drawer space for all of your folded clothes and things like that. Some of our residence halls do have safes, not all of them. And so if you are one of those folks who has a safe, then you would be provided with the means to set the code for that safe, and then you'd be able to keep your materials in there, your valuables in that space. Certainly mirrors, and some of our residence halls have sinks in the rooms, but not all of them. So the hall pages on Housing and Residence Life's website, there's a way to go to look at each individual hall, all of the amenities, all of the features within that hall, look at a 3D graphic of the room itself, the layout for the rooms, as well as see pictures or a video of the room, depending on which building it is.
Great, thank you. There's a question on, will this recording be published? So yes, we are recording the webinar currently for any families that weren't able to attend, or if you wanted to go back and see, they answered a question that I had at the beginning, but I can't remember it. The link that I posted in the chat, tomorrow we'll have a recording up of this. We just need to render it and upload it to YouTube and then link it there. But that will be available starting tomorrow. And so the recording will be available. So, if your parents weren't able to attend but still want to get the housing information, that's where you can direct them to. All right. Any final questions? I'll wait a few seconds on that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I know with everything going on, it's just very uncertain time. So if we could provide any clarity at all, we are happy to do that. If you just need advice on what residence hall or just have any questions in general, we went into this job to work with students and to help their transition into the university and help them succeed and thrive. So we are all very happy to help you in any way that we can. So like I mentioned, the link in that chat is how you will get contact information. And then if you want to email admissions, it's admissions with an S at the end at gonzaga.edu. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our panelists for taking their time out on a Thursday evening to answer these questions. We appreciate it. But I hope you all have a wonderful Thursday evening, and we hope to see you very soon. All right, bye.